Now, Harry Harlow writes a book in the 1960s. It's called Learning to Love, but this is a kind of a rhesus monkey study. Now, people study monkeys because genetically they're very close to us. They share about 99% of genes, kind of things, with human beings. Okay, and they're very interesting to be around. The OU professors actually almost all raised chimps themselves. I had a guy I worked with named Maury Timberland, who's gone now, but he raised a chimpanzee from birth as a daughter, as you would any child. Diapers, the whole bit. The little chimp's named Lucy. He wrote a book, Growing Up with Lucy. Okay. But you would go to Timberland's house, and Lucy would be in the back seat of the car. Timberland actually had a billfold where he had pictures of his son, who was going to medical school, and then the chimp Lucy, who was dressed in a dress. This is my son, this is my daughter, he would say. Now he would hand the keys to Lucy, and Lucy would grab the keys and run over and take an old flat basketball he had there and roll it over in front of the door and hop up on the basketball and open the door of the house for you and go in. And then she would come over and jump in your lap. Now, that's a trait of chimpanzees, of rhesus monkeys, is that they get chest to chest with you and with mama. So they don't really sit in a lap as much as they put their arms around you and attach to you and kind of give you that hug, kind of like what people do when they hadn't seen one another in a long time, and the kids jump up on you and you're holding them and hugging them. Monkeys kind of come at you that way, so there's not a lap per se. Okay. Now, when monkeys get really close to you, they start grooming you. So they'll grab their hands, and I had hair in the day, and they would grab my hair and pull nits and things out of your hair and do that. Now, you had to do that back to them, or Lucy would get upset, because that's how you interact. And so she's picking and grooming, and you're picking and grooming with her, and she's holding on to they're 6 times as strong as human beings. So when they get older, you can't hardly keep them anymore. You can't raise them as children. And they don't learn the language. Now they can learn sign language, and so the professors tried to teach them that, American Sign Language, and they got where they could sign 60 to 600 words, but they don't use them correctly. Okay? You cut a piece of paper, well, they would say cut a stone. They wouldn't get the idea that scissors can't cut the stone, so they're not very good at rock, paper, scissors, the game. You with me? So human beings have this thin 1/4-inch layer on top of our brains that the primates, the infrahumans, don't have, and that gives us the ability to use language, to use symbolism, to use rational thought, if you will, to think about problems rather than have to go out and do them and experience them. So Harlow wants to study isolation from people, actually, but isolation from mother at birth. Now, we can't just take human beings and separate them from their mom and put them in a closet for 12 years and open the closet up and say, here's what you'd look like if we didn't interact with you at all and you hadn't been around people at all, because that's inhumane. However, you can do that with rhesus monkeys. Well, you could in the 60s. Let me put it that way, when these studies were done. This led to animal rights protests at APA meetings and people thinking animals were being mistreated in experiments, and a change in the way we deal with human and animals in experiments. We used to lie to you all the time and do things and see how people would act. We can't do that anymore. Those days are gone. So a lot of studies in the 60s we can't repeat. But rhesus monkey Harlow separated them at birth, okay, and then raised them separately without them being around any other monkeys in a cage, isolated from like kind, okay. Now, when the monkeys got older, anybody got an idea what they were like? They were very different from other monkeys. They were very hostile. They would bite the hand of those who would feed them. They were aggressive. They were nervous looking, acting. They didn't play well when you introduce them to monkeys later on. They don't interact well. They don't know the hierarchy, the pecking order that monkeys have, the kind of a status or stratification of who's in charge versus who isn't. So they would break all kinds of rules when they got in there with the other monkeys. They weren't well liked. They had a very difficult time adjusting. Okay, so lots of bad things for these monkeys when they're introduced to other monkeys. Just not quite right. Just don't get along well. Okay, angry, hostile, fearful, that kind of thing. I saw Harry Harlow actually give a speech. And in the speech, he shows a film of his study of the monkeys. You actually can see pictures in some books, cite books on this, where he has two different kinds of monkeys. Now, what Harlow did is he said, okay, we separate them from their mom and we see what they're like. Now, let's try something different. So what he did is he built out of wire a monkey that looks like a monkey, except it's built with like hanging wire, like you would hang something up, the clothes hangers. And he just bends them around and shapes the head and makes the head and a body. And then he props in a bottle of milk for the monkeys to drink. Okay. And then those monkeys, that's called the wire mother. And the wire mother has the milk. Then he also puts another monkey right next to the mother monkey, except this one he wraps in terry cloth, which is like a soft bathrobe kind of material. And so he just wraps that around this monkey. But the terry cloth mom, no milk. Wire mom, milk. Terry cloth, no milk. Now what happens is that the monkeys, the idea was they're going to hang around the mom with the milk. So they're going to attach to the wire mother and get up and get close to that mom and hang out there. Instead, the monkeys would go and drink the milk and then hop over to the terry cloth mother and spend all their time there. Cuddling, moving up close, getting the contact, that kind of thing. And when they did that, they did much better than the monkeys who were totally isolated. Okay, so here's Harlow's conclusion, and I actually want you to get two conclusions he makes from the study. Number one, it seems baby monkeys developed a greater social attachment from their need for warmth, comfort, and intimacy than for their need for milk. Warmth, comfort, and intimacy attachment than their need for milk. Now that surprised people. His second conclusion, the ill effects of being raised in social isolation are often irreversible. The effects of being raised in social isolation are often irreversible.